Peace and blessing, family. It's your man Maarifa, and welcome to another Maarifa moment where knowledge is reborn. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, and we black. Yeah, it's your man Maarifa Black yet again with another video for the week. You dig? You know how we do it. We coming with great topics for today. Today we're going to be discussing how Africans lost the principles of Maat. A very important topic, but before we do all that, you know how we do it. We need to get these admin notes out the way. So let's do it real quick. Check a look at this banner right here. You see what it is. We need you to like, subscribe, follow, and share all of our social media platforms at Maarifa LLC. The second thing we need you to do, soon as this video is over, go right over to maarifasar.com. You see me rocking the fly gear right here, and you see all of these beautiful melanated beings right here off to your right on the screen, right here rocking the gear as well. You know what I'm saying? Shout out and much love to everybody who made purchases. Man, much love and appreciation to all of y'all who made purchases and joined the knowledge movement. You know what I'm saying? And made purchases at maarifasar.com. I think you should go over there and get you some fly gear and look as fly as these melanated beings that you see on this screen right here. You dig? Look, dig. I'm also supporting black-owned businesses. You dig? I promote my own people. You dig? Check me out right here. Look on the walls. You see on my wall right here, this beautiful art piece that you see right here. This is from an incredible, amazing artist, Pamela Ashton, man. She's an amazing queen who does all of her own handcrafted artwork. You know what I'm saying? Go check her out at Instagram at pa.artdesigns. Okay? Go to Instagram and check out Pamela Ashton's work at pa.artdesigns on Instagram and order you a piece. You know what I'm saying? You will not be disappointed. Go check her out. So dig, are y'all ready? Let's get into our topic for today. Let's go. All right. So you see here that we have ancient Africans had this spiritual, system of principles that they carried out throughout their culture and their civilizations. Okay, so in ancient Kemet, in the Nile Valley culture, there was a golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated, and that principle reigned supreme for thousands and thousands of years. As you see here, on this image, you have the feather, the goddess Maat, you know what I'm saying, with the feather on her head, and she represented principles of truth, righteousness, and justice. She also has, other principles as well that she, you know, uh, represented, but we're going to talk about those as we go through this video. But you see the Africans, wearing the feather. That means that you held yourself to a higher moral standard, okay? So you tried to maintain this moral character, of Ma'at, in order to maintain balance within yourself, within your spirit, and be able to treat your fellow human beings with respect, dignity, and honor, and carry yourself as a mature individual, you know what I'm saying, who's able to present themselves as someone of a human being of humanity, you know what I'm saying. So that's what the ancient Africans had. Now when the white European Greeks came in and conquered the northern African region, they brought with them their barbaric and their horrific style of principles that they had. They really didn't have any principles per se, but they had a thirst for power. You know what I'm saying? They were savages, barbaric savages. All their whole mindset was that of conquest and killing, you know what I'm saying, and stealing. When they put in their book, the Bible, that the beast comes to steal, kill, and destroy, that's what they were describing themselves. You know what I'm saying? So when they came in, they brought a whole different concept. They were all about war and destruction and taking over lands of people, African people, you know what I'm saying, indigenous Africans, the Dravidian African, which were later the Indian, the Mongoloid, you know what I'm saying. So the white European albino had this, mindset of, destruction and, chaos and stuff like that. So they really didn't have much principles. It's nothing. So they took and stole, concepts and put it, in their their religious, things that they were trying to establish in order to control the minds of the masses. They seen what the ancient Africans were doing when they came into the region, and they didn't understand it per se, but they were copying it to try to use it to their advantage, to use the ancient principles of Maat, you know what I'm saying, and twisted them to make it, something perverted, something that they came up with their, God that they created with Serapis, which ultimately evolved when the Romans took over into Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So we had laws in ancient Africa, okay? In Kemet, in the Nile Valley culture, coming up, from Uganda and the Mountain of the Moon, all the way up the Nile, you know what I'm saying, flowing north, and having our principles going up that mount, that Nile Valley, it was ingrained in the family structure. And these Ma'at laws were pretty much negative confessions, saying that, I did not do this, I did not do that. You know what I'm saying? I did not commit a crime today. I did not, steal anything. I did not, be mean to anyone. I did not kill anyone. I did not, cause anyone to be at wrath. I did not, what I'm saying? So you're confessing that you didn't do anything. You're innocent, okay? Pretty much innocent until proven guilty. So you're confessing that you're innocent. You walk this way. Africans walk this way. You know what I'm saying? And they, treated others this way, with the same respect. And these laws were respected across the board of every African, from the highest, status of Pharaoh, king, and queens, all the way down, you know what I'm saying, to the lowest, common, African man and woman. All right. So each and every one, was, a part of this principle. Okay. So how did we, all venerate this goddess? You know what I'm saying? The Africans have venerated this goddess Ma'at, who has so much respect and reverence, you know what I'm saying, in the Nile Valley, because what she represented, you know what I'm saying? Everybody had respect, you know what I'm saying? Where the goddess Ma'at was that one principle, aspect of God, you know what I'm saying? The supreme being that was righteousness. Okay, so she represented righteousness and truth and morality and all of the pure things in which we as human beings, we know that's what we want as human beings. We want to be treated, fairly. We want to be treated as equals. We want to be respected as people. We want to be treated as human beings. We want to be, liked and we want to be accepted. We want to be living in peace. You know what I'm saying? So those are the things that ancient Africans had. You know what I'm saying? So when they say that we never had any civilization or we never were civil, when white Europeans will come in and say we were savages and uncivilized and this, that, and the third, they were actually talking about themselves. They were the ones who were savages. They were the ones who were uncivilized. It was the Africans who had already had, centuries and centuries and centuries of, culture and civilizations. We were the first beings on the planet. So we, pretty much created everything and invented everything and started it all. We had so much, resources plentiful throughout the Nile Valley. You know what I'm saying? Food was in abundance. Minerals and resources was in abundance in Africa. That's why they still trying to rape and pillage Africa to this day. All right. So the white Europeans know, you know what I'm saying? But when you're born into this world, you have no clue of the knowledge of what's going on. So somebody has to teach you something. You know what I'm saying? So you have to come in and be taught everything, from a baby. So those who conquer and who are in power, they get to control and dictate what is being taught to the babies. Okay, they get to program pretty much the people until the people deprogram themselves and they start seeking the truth for themselves. And when they seek the truth, then they'll find. And once they find, they'll free their mind and liberate themselves from the oppression of the mental aspect of the programming from the powers that be. Okay, so it's very important. The law of the land. You know what I'm saying? Ma'at. So then you had these white Europeans creating their own concepts and laws, which they created their Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church was pretty much the authoritative stance in which the white European established their foundation on dominating the masses of people. So they would use the Catholic Church as a means for them to dictate, rules and laws, to the people. You know what I'm saying? So everything came out of the church. All right. So when the Catholic Church and the Pope had said something, they were telling the people that, hey, this was coming from God. You know what I'm saying? This is the God that they created. The white European created their God, and they would dictate and push down all of their, credence and laws and rules and things of that nature, and what they wanted the people to do with taxation. You know what I'm saying? How they was treating the people, how they was feeding the people and rationing out, foods and all this, that, and the third. All of that authoritative stuff came from the church. You know what I'm saying? So they were going out and killing, lots of people who were against the church and who were against the principles of that church. If you didn't believe in, Catholicism or Christianity, if you didn't believe in Serapis worship, if you didn't believe in, Jesus Christ and the cross and all this, that, and the third, the Catholic Church sent an army out, the Knights Templar, and they sent them out to kill any opposition. You know what I'm saying? Of anybody who opposed them and their rules and all of and the Catholic Church rules and the laws that were coming out from the Pope. All right. So anybody who opposed the church, they was killing them. That means anybody who was a Gnostic, who had their own knowledge from the old, times, anybody who was in spirituality, anybody who was practicing, they call it witchcraft or voodoo. You know what I'm saying? If you had anything that was opposite of this Catholic Church and their laws, the Pope and his people sent his armies out to kill you. All right. So they understood that they couldn't sustain the army long enough, to be able to kill and control the masses of people who was coming from generation to generation to generation to generation. So they had to come up with this concept and idea. How can we control these people, you know what I'm saying, and keep them under submission and timid and afraid of us while we sit on high, because they outnumber us. The people outnumber those who are at the top. Okay. So at any time, the people can rise up and revolt against the church and, or government authorities or anything of that nature. So they came up with these ecumenical councils where they were changing the philosophies, the spiritual and religious and, the laws of the land and all of the philosophical changes that were coming along with, their concepts and ideologies out of this church. And they were creating these characters, and then they created the Bible stories and the books and put it all together so that they can, get this one book, the Bible, and bring it all together with these stories that they stole from ancient African proverbs and, other regions of lands they conquered in, what I'm saying, around Mesopotamia. But they changed all of those stories, you know what I'm saying? And they remixed all of the stories, put it in their own version, and then came up with their own story and concept, and then created their God and started enforcing their God, onto the people. They called it Hellenization. That was an indoctrination period in which they were going, from different lands and different places, and having these missionaries go out and indoctrinate the people with this whole concept that they came up with of this God they called, Yahweh, or, Jesus, and this, that, and the third. Okay. So that whole thing rose to power. Okay. So you got to understand, as an African, we had our own spiritual system in place before the Europeans invaded. All right. So it's now turning into the Matrix. You know what I'm saying? So the white Europeans are starting their program, and they're starting to bring about this change in the world where they're dominating and killing off people in their lands, destroying all type of stuff, burning down their, houses, and, destroying all of their doctrine, raping their women, you know what I'm saying? Impregnating all of these women and making these new races of people, on the planet, these mixed breed babies that they're making. White Europeans was just going crazy all over the planet. You know what I'm saying? They have this mindset, where they were just, absolutely barbaric and savage. You know what I'm saying? So if you look throughout history and you study real history, you will see, you know what I'm saying, that how savage these white Europeans were on the whole planet. Okay? Their whole mindset of world domination, of them going out taking other people's indigenous people's lands, killing off people's and bringing disease and all type of stuff. So it was just bad. You know what I'm saying? Extremely bad. So when the Pope had commissioned, you know what I'm saying, uh, Columbus to go out and discover these new lands, they call it. So these lands have already been discovered by Africans. They already been populated by Africans all over the globe. Melanated beings have been all over the globe. You know what I'm saying? So they can't discover something that's already, have people there. You know what I'm saying? So they went out to spread this, new world order is what they were doing. And they were going out to spread their concepts of this, ideology of this God and this new way of living, this new life, and how you're going to be submissive to this white God, um, the way that came out of this Catholic Church. And even within their own church, the Catholic Church, they had protesters. That's where you get the Protestants from. You know what I'm saying? So Martin Luther, had this letter because he had branched off. He was a Catholic at one point, and he had branched off, him and his group, and they started, their own little, clique, and they developed their own, ideology and understanding of what, you know, that Bible was, and then they created their own Bible, and it's just another story that we'll get into in another video. But I don't want to stay on topic right here. So as you see these missionaries going out, you know, and they're introducing this new God concept to these people, they come in this humble and peaceful way. They're introducing themselves to these indigenous people of these lands before they kill them, before they go back and tell, the armies, hey, this is what we saw. So basically they're spies, you know what I'm saying, disguised as loving and kind missionaries. So they come with the Bible, you know what I'm saying, and then eventually they take the land. All right, so they give the indigenous people the Bible, and then they take their lands. That's how the concept works. They come in all nice and sweet and humble. Yes, we come in the name of Jesus Christ, and yes, we love God, and yada yada. You should love us too. And then a couple of months go by, and next thing you know, they raping the women, and then they calling the armies over there, come send the troops, and then they killing off the people, and then disease is setting in, and they done had like thousands of babies and all type of stuff, and it's just mass chaos all over the globe. That's what's been happening. And then they eventually evolved that into preaching this doctrine, indoctrinating, the Africans, the indigenous Indian, the Mongoloid, you know what I'm saying, all over the globe. But the Mongoloid, kind of kept them out of Asia a little bit. They kept their defenses up, and then they also, partner with them by giving them guns, but we'll talk about that at a later date and time in another video. But you can see here that these white missionaries, white Europeans, were coming over from the church, from authority of the church. The church was giving them the authority to go out and change the whole mindset of, the people, of the Africans. And the Africans had totally forgot, you know what I'm saying, their ancient ancestors principles that they taught, you know what I'm saying, because they were stolen from their lands, you know what I mean. So then you have this whole religion coming up of Christianity and Catholicism, you know what I'm saying. The Catholic Church came first. It came, Christianity is of Catholicism, they're the same, one and the same. So you have these missionaries going out into these foreign lands, you know what I'm saying, that have indigenous people, melanated beings on the lands, and they had their own spiritual systems that they had in place before the white European missionaries ever showed up. Okay, so they were living, the way that they were living, civilized, and doing the things that they do, but here come these white Europeans into their lands, trying to control them, and then change their whole way of thinking, change their whole way of living. You know what I'm saying? Trying to force them or convince them that the white European way is the true way. You know what I'm saying? And those who oppose that, they put to death. You know what I'm saying? Those who say no, that's not what we our people are doing. That's not, who our people are. That's not what we've been doing. So these white Europeans, they would call in, the armies from the church, and the church would send out you know, their armies like the Knights Templar to go and have them killed and destroyed. Okay, while the missionaries continue the work in that land, spreading this Bible and teaching them about this Jesus Christ that they created in the book. Okay. So then you have stuff like the evolution of slavery. When we came on slave ships, 1619, this transatlantic slave trade, what I'm saying? They brought slaves over, Columbus and them. This is from a depiction of the movie Roots. You see Kunta is being whipped for trying to maintain his, you know, own identity as an African. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to remain Kunta Kinte, but they tried to give him a new name, Toby. So the slave master was whipping it out of him. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much beating, him into submission until he actually conformed. You know what I mean? So he was willfully, fighting, he was resisting rather, what I'm saying, the white man's principles and all of the things that he was trying to, I change his whole identity, take away his language, take away his memory of, his homeland of Africa, take away his concepts of African speech and his tongue and his religion and all of that stuff. So the white man beat it out of our people in slavery, separated our families, you know what I'm saying, and kept us, from each other so that we wouldn't be able to teach each other and to be able to establish ourselves as Africans and remember, Big Mama tried to maintain as much, knowledge as she could to pass down to the children. But again, the white slave owners kept the babies, separated from the family, sold them off to different plantations, and then they never saw each other again. You know what I'm saying? So those things had occurred to us. They happened to our people, and it had a traumatic impact on our people. You know what I'm saying? So we gone through this slavery, here in America as black people, and our identity has been stolen. We are a stolen people. Okay, so we had civilizations, before the white European. We had created, monuments, what I'm saying, the pyramids and the temple structures. We had pharaoh kings and queens. We had kings and queens in West Africa, kings and queens in South Africa, kings and queens, what I'm saying, in Mali, Songhai, what I'm saying, Congo, in the Congo. We came up with the Twa. We had the Khoi San peoples, the first indigenous people on the planet. You know what I'm saying? So we are the first indigenous. You know what I'm saying? So the white European, with their whole mindset of domination and world destruction and world conquest, they were going out and killing, just wiping Africans out, destroying, utterly destroying. So when they put in that Bible that their God told them to utterly destroy, and wipe everything out and killing, they were talking about their own true history. They're talking about white European history and conquest. Okay, so don't get it misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? Because they try to make it seem like these Hebrews did it. The Hebrews are nothing more than Greek half children from the Greeks and the Arab. You know what I'm saying? But we'll get into that in another video at another date and time. And I'll tell you, how they came about. But the Africans had to deal with this in the new land, trying to, live and survive in the land that was, kind of foreign to them. If they were, come from Africa, shipped over from the Caribbeans and then into the Americas. You know what I'm saying? So they were having to survive, this whole mentality. You know what I'm saying? And then we had revolts, that we rose up, some revolts that we fought back, and tried to resist, this huge, conglomerate of slavery. You know what I'm saying? And these white Europeans were pretty much dominating us with the the weapons that they had. You know what I'm saying? So they had firearms, guns, and things of that nature, which gave them an advantage. And they got the guns from the Chinese and the Asians. But like I told you, we'll talk about that, at another video. But this is what we had to go through. So we kind of lost ourselves as a people. And then we started to adopt their culture, their ideology. We started to accept it and embrace it. And we thought that that was a way for us to be able to be free. If we stop fighting and we just stop resisting, you know what I'm saying? Then if we kind of show the white European that, hey, we'll accept it, we'll go along with it, you know what I'm saying? We're not a threat to you, you know what I'm saying? So there were certain things that the white European allowed the black, man and woman to do. You know what I'm saying? As long as it benefited their narrative of this Jesus and this church. Okay. So the mindset, the psychological mindset, the psychological games that they played on the Africans, and they were trying to get them mentally here in the mind. So if I can get you controlled here in your mind and you're accepting what I'm telling you and what I'm teaching you, you're no longer a threat. I can sleep at night peacefully and not worry. You know what I'm saying? Because I could psychologically control you with your mind, control your mind. So I don't have to no longer fight you physically with my fist. I don't have to shoot you with my gun. I got you here mentally. Okay. So this was the problem with the Africans. Okay. So we went through slavery here in this country, and we went through conquest in Africa, and they destroyed and conquered our lands and took over the ancient African, North African lands in the Nile Valley. Uh, these white Europeans had a world domination, all right, a system in place. So psychologically, they had us in fear, thinking that there was no hope, and the only hope that we would ever have is in this book, from this God that they created. All right. And then you had generations of, elders who passed on. Some Africans didn't want to talk about the old times because that would get them in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Or that could possibly get them killed if they were sharing knowledge of the old ways of Africa with their children. You know what I'm saying? If the white Europeans noticed anything that was outside of this white European concept of God and church, in this concept of Jesus Christ, then that African family, would be, separated or killed or whipped. You know what I'm saying? Some form of punishment would occur. All right. So the Africans then was starting to embrace and adopt this ideology that the white Europeans were forcing on them constantly, constantly, constantly. Okay. So we were enslaved mentally. So you have the Christian, and then you have other, religions like Islam and things of that nature, which is a part of the Roman Catholic Church. We'll go into that at another video and another date and time. That was controlling the mind of the African, and the African had lost their identity. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know who they were no more. You know what I'm saying? They had no clue. So you're talking about generations of generations of generations of Africans who were born, you know, they're coming into this world being taught, these religions, what I'm saying? Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, and they're adopting all of these different cultures while they've completely forgotten all of the principles that their ancient African, ancestors had from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? The principles of Maat. They forgot them. They've been completely lost. They're gone. And we had to go through this, segregation and separation, degrading, marginalization, of a people, dehumanizing a people, separating them, making them feel less than, creating a status. White European created a social status of something that was beneath them, while they kept themselves on top. As you see depicted here, the separation of colored versus white, drinking fountains, during the Jim Crow era. So methodologies are psychologically telling the African that they are less than human, that they are less than white people, and white people are superior. So psychologically, you have this concept that was being taught, by the white Europeans. You see right there, we want white tenants in our white communities. You know what I'm saying? So this is psychologically a mindset again, telling you that you know, uh, you're not welcome here. You're not able to live in this area. You're not worthy of living in this area. Okay. So then the African fought, the different things that going through the Jim Crow laws. You know what I'm saying? So you looking at waiting in line for colors only for the police department. They had sundown towns. If you got caught in certain areas in America after the sun went down, they would come with these lynch mob, white Ku Klux Klan, lynch mob groups and try to, kill you or hang you, black people and stuff like that who were whoever they saw. So it was just traumatic times, traumatic times where African people had lost their way and their identity. And if you're constantly going through this programming and you're constantly going through all of these different things and you start to turn on yourself, your own people, because you've lost who you are, you become a coon, you become a sellout, you become a traitor to your own people in order to gain some status or have a few privileges. You know what I'm saying? You're willing to sacrifice your integrity in order to become something that your oppressor wants you to be. And you will trade on your own people, you know what I'm saying, in order to obtain that. So then you have like the slave catchers, the slave catchers that went through, and you had your own black people trading on other black people, like I said, for privilege and prestige, trying to fit in with the white society, thinking that, that's the way that they're going to, get ahead, you know what I'm saying? And they were willing to, you know, compromise their, identity, or compromise their integrity, rather, of their selves in order to obtain a few privileges. The white man would not allow, the black, African to obtain a higher status than he will. So it was like a false, reality, what I'm saying, that these Africans, would obtain this, privilege, from the white Europeans, which they were using them. They were manipulating them for their own personal, gain, or things that they needed, Africans to do. You know what I'm saying? And the Africans bought into it instead of, fighting back and resisting and maintaining their integrity of their people, and staying true to the principles of their own brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying? And staying true, to them and being loyal to Africans, they traded on their own people. You know what I'm saying? So it's very unfortunate. Now, ultimately, all of this stuff led to, things that we live in today. You know what I'm saying? Mass incarcerations. The prisons are filled with, blacks and Latinos, you know what I'm saying, at a higher rate and percentage, than white Europeans. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about 80% or so of African people in prison systems right now, and that comes from the laws and the lawmakers and politicians who create these laws and execute these laws across the country. You know what I'm saying? So they introduce these bills and these laws and they pass these laws, which put on these hard, you know, laws and policies that they implement to keep black people in prison and enslaved. All right, according to that 13th Amendment. All right, so and you see how we had to endure all of this stuff, police brutality. You know what I'm saying? Even through 1991, you know what I'm saying? They beat down Rodney King. You know what I'm saying? Police brutality. All of this stuff has been going on. So this is all a part of the programming, and the imagery that you see here is like them enforcing their dominance over a people. You know what I'm saying? So when this incident occurred with Rodney King, they looped it on the news constantly. This is the only story that happened for months and months and months and months, and they looped it and looped it and looped it, and then if eventually, they burned down Watts in L.A. There was a L.A. riots. Derek Chauvin, you know what I'm saying, killing George Floyd right there in cold blood, broad daylight on the street, didn't give a damn murdered this black man in cold blood. Nobody did nothing to help this black man. You know what I'm saying? They recorded and everything like that, but they allowed this evil and wicked police officer to murder this corrupt police officer right here. Not all police are corrupt, okay? Just don't get me wrong, okay? Not every police officer is corrupt, but there are the ones. You already know who they are, and you can tell from the vibes that they got. You know what I'm saying? That, those who are corrupt. You know what I'm saying? There are some corrupt police officers in the force, and the police need to police the police officers. You know what I'm saying? But these are the things that we have to deal with as African people here in this country. And you see, it's another part of the programming to psychologically get you to understand that you are beneath us. We are in control. We are in power. You are nothing to us. We can kill you at any time. Okay, this is the image and this is the thought process of the white European. Okay, so you're getting this, barbaric, savage, you know, um, image, and was played on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Everybody saw this in the world, and there was a lot of protests. People were angry. There was a lot of riots and things of that nature from Minneapolis, and they kind of burned that down. And you know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of people who were upset at this. You know what I'm saying? Because people are sick and tired of this white supremacist system. It's unfair. It's not just, and it's inhumane. Okay, and it needs to change. Honest with you, it needs to change. So you see right here, we even had a president, and the ideology and the understanding of that president, that was in office, and they had this whole thought process. These white Europeans were thinking that, hey, we're going to go back to the good old days. We're going to go back to the good old times where we was in control and power. We could do whatever we wanted to do with these black folks, and you know what I'm saying, and these Negroes, and do whatever we wanted to do, and it's whites only, we segregate, all that type of stuff. They was thinking they were going back to those times. Okay, so we had a rise of hip hop, and there's a lot of different things that occur through music, that teaches us about the atrocities that are happening, what I'm saying, in the community. But then also they use the music against us in order to get us to degrade and to pretty much disrespect our own people, using our own people and our own musical talents to do so. So we don't lift each other up in our music. We tear each other down in our music. You know what I'm saying? And the white Europeans who are in control of the record label make sure that they put out certain type of music. You know what I'm saying? And they play it on the radio, so they control the radio stations. We don't, black people don't own any radio stations, so they get to air whatever they want to air on the radio station. So they're not going to put anything on that's uplifting the people, that's going to get the people charged up, like Public Enemy, what I'm saying, X Clan, or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to play any music from African artists that's going to stir the people up. You know what I'm saying? To get them to revolt and rebel against this unjust system. All right. So we have turned on each other. The African has turned on each other, and we have a whole generation of misguided, misunderstood, miseducated, young black, youth who are angry, frustrated, traumatized, what I'm saying, because they lost, what I'm saying, completely lost mentally. They're getting programmed constantly through radio, television, movies, church, school. They're getting this white European programming constantly, all the time. The internet, social media is constant. The it's a beast. You know what I'm saying? This whole, buzzsaw of this white supremacy programming, mental programming, okay? As well as, the mental programming, as well as keeping you under submission as a human being. You always feel like you're struggling. You always feel like you're trying, but you're never going to get there. You know what I'm saying? This is almost like an episode of Good Times. You know what I'm saying? Just when you think they're going to be successful, boom, something happens, and it never happens. You know what I'm saying? They never make it to success. They never get paid. Fred Sanford and Son, the same way. You know what I'm saying? They always trying to, get to the top and try to make it and stuff like that, and then boom, they never happens. They never make it. You know what I'm saying? So it's always something that gets in the way. So that's the same thing that black people been dealing with since they've been there. The identity is gone. Okay, and then we end up with this. You know what I'm saying? The twerking age and Cardi B and Meg the Stallion, internet, we got the women degrading themselves, disrespecting themselves, you know what I'm saying? And they all on the internet and they feel like this is all the value that they have to offer. You know what I'm saying? Their bodies. You know what I'm saying? And this is what they feel. This is what we've been reduced to. This is all that we have to offer as a people. And then we have a generation of young people who think this is acceptable behavior as Africans. We have no, uh, respect, what I'm saying, for each other to not even put this stuff out in the public like this. There was a time where as a people that we didn't even do anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But it's openly, you know what I'm saying? And then we, got black on black violence, you know what I'm saying, that we need to get rid of because of the frustration and the competition and the lack of resources that we have. You know what I'm saying? The jobs are not available, so a lot of brothers feeling the pressure of trying to feed their family and they can't, so they go to criminal means in order to make ends meet. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that stuff ends up in violence, and it ends up, you know what I'm saying, hurting the community because we turn on each other for a dollar, all right, in order to make a dollar. You know what I'm saying? And that causes a lot of violence. But it comes from the programming, the mental programming of us not knowing who we are as a people, okay? And we lost that whole concept of Maat. And it's enough to get Florida Evans even mad. He's like, damn, damn, damn. You get frustrated. You know what I'm saying? You just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I'm saying? And the trauma that comes along with that, and the pain and the anguish and the agony that comes along with that. We as a people are so spiritual that we feel the most, okay? And we feel on the inside, and it hurts, you know what I'm saying, to a point where we feel like, lost. It's like, man, we got to get out of this circumstance, but how? It's almost like we in a sunken place. You know what I'm saying? From the movie Get Out. But you got to think. You got to be stronger than that. You have to study. You have to research. You got to know that this is all a part of their programming. This is a part of what they've tried to do to our people mentally. So if you free your mind mentally from the programming, you'll liberate yourself, and then you'll be able to maneuver and help your brother and sister liberate their mind and uplift them and encourage them as well to be better than themselves. And you hold yourselves accountable. You hold yourself with respect. You hold yourself and your fellow brother and sister to another standard that is better than what we have been taught by the white European. You know what I'm saying? So you have to come up out of this slave mentality. No longer are we sharecroppers, you know what I'm saying, picking cotton. You no longer is that, we're not in that era no more. We need to rise above that and be what we used to be, which was kings, queens, noblemen, priests. You know what I'm saying? We used to be, governors, and we had civilizations and cultures. You know what I'm saying? And all over. You know what I'm saying? So we need to get back to that and understand that we're fighting against this system that is, charged with this racism. All right. And we forgot ourselves. Along with that, we tried to embrace it. You know what I'm saying? This white supremacist system, we adopted their culture, and that caused us a lot of pain and anguish. And then we went through the whole, eras of slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, you know what I'm saying? All of these traumatic episodes, and then we're still dealing with today. You know what I'm saying? The police brutality, they're killing our people in the street. And then we adopt these cultures and start killing each other off. You know what I'm saying? We adopt the white Europeans' mental state of savage and barbaric, and we start acting and behaving just like they are, just like they have been in the past. You know what I'm saying? So we have to rise above that. you know what I'm saying, and be better, with our people. Raise a black fist one time, you know what I'm saying? Be proud to be who you are. Don't be ashamed to be black. Don't be ashamed to identify yourself as African. Don't be ashamed. Don't let no one, make you feel guilty for being African or proud to be African. Being proud to be African does not mean that you're anti-white or anti whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's not what it is. For you to be pro something, that means you're for your people. That's okay. You know what I'm saying? Mexicans always hang with Mexicans. Asians always hang with Asians. Indians always hang with Indians. White people always hang with white people. But you never hear nobody get upset about that. Black people are the only ones who have to integrate and assimilate and make people feel comfortable. Other people, other races feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? We can't talk about having pride in ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Or they feel like we're a threat. Okay. So they know that we're special people. We forgotten. We don't know that we're special people. Okay. We've been given this Christianity. We've been given this Jesus character. We've been given the white European structure, and they've changed our whole programming around. We even have black preachers out there going out indoctrinating our people, preaching this poison to our people. You know what I'm saying? Teaching them this and preaching this, Jesus character to our people. You know what I'm saying? So they're giving this false hope and this false identity and false reality, when instead they should be giving them principles of morality that are sustaining, that will, build them up. You know what I'm saying? So there are certain things that are, African in the Bible, certain aspects of it that are, that they stole, the Greeks and the Romans stole from African concepts that they kept in the Bible in order for them to indoctrinate African people, because they had to have a few bits and pieces here and there, something that sounded similar so that people would actually accept it when they read it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like any scriptures. You read a few scriptures that apply to you, and then there are other scriptures that don't apply to you. And you say, well, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? So there's the confusion within the doctrine. You know what I'm saying? So they say in the doctrine that God is not the author of confusion. Well, if you read that Bible, then you'll be completely confused because it doesn't fit together. If you read it literally on the top surface, it sounds crazy. Okay, you got to understand it has an esoteric, deeper meaning than what you see on the surface. Okay, but you got to be smarter in order for you to understand that. But a lot of people don't. They don't look beyond the surface of what they see on the Bible, and they just read and take the Bible literally. But if you take the Bible literally, then it's kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? So that's where they got us. So these 10 commandments in which they stole from the principles of Maat, you know, they don't even follow them. You know what I'm saying? So, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not have any idols, thou shalt not, have any gods over me. All of that stuff, these white Europeans don't even follow. They've broken all of these commandments throughout the centuries, throughout the years. If you go through and look out history, real history, you'll see the white Europeans who were trying to bring this doctrine to the people don't even follow it themselves. Didn't follow it themselves, but they want you to follow it. Why is that? Because they want to control you. They want to keep you under submission. They want to keep you timid and not fighting back against this system that they're putting in place of control and power. They want you to be calm. They want you not to revolt and not to rise up against this wicked, evil, unjust system. Okay. So in order for them to do that, they got to make sure that you buy in. You have to accept it. You have to embrace it. You have to, live it. Your lifestyle has to change. You have to embrace it, and you have to teach it to your children in order to indoctrinate them, or else you're a threat. Now we're going to take your kids, you know what I'm saying? If they're a threat, we're going to put them in jail. We're going to take your kids who don't listen to, go to church and nothing like that. We're going to put them in jail. We're going to put them in criminal records. We're going to do this to them. We're going to, do that to them, give them drugs or whatever they do to destroy themselves, all type of stuff. So they don't even follow their own doctrine. You know what I'm saying? So you see the divine laws of Ma'at, of truth, righteousness, and justice is what we lost as a people. They copied it. The Greeks and the Romans, they took it, they remixed it, revised it, put it in their own words, because what we had was a negative confession as in Africans. We had, I have not done this. I have not done that. You know what I'm saying? But theirs is a command. It's a commandment. Thou shalt not do that. That means you better not do that, or else I'm gonna do this to you. You see what I'm saying? So it's a difference. You got to understand the esoteric meaning behind it. There is a difference. You know what I'm saying? So when you're telling somebody a command, you're telling them to do something, or else there's a punishment that comes along with that, a consequence. But with the principles of Ma'at, which is the golden rule, you know what I'm saying? Treat others the way you want to be treated, truth, righteousness, and justice. You know, I have not done that. You can confess that you're innocent. You know what I'm saying? I have not been evil. I have not caused wrath. I have not stolen anything. I have not taken anyone's food. I have not committed adultery. I have not killed anyone. I have not done none of these things. I'm innocent. So you have no karma, no bad karma coming on you. Your conscience is clear. You can live peacefully amongst your people. You have no tension with no one. You have no beef with no one. No reason for anyone to be angry at you. No reason for anyone to be trying to do anything to you. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't do anything to nobody else. So it's no negative karma coming your way. That's the way we lived as Africans. We lost that identity because of the programming of white Europeans. These principles of Ma'at, the goddess Ma'at is embodiment of the ancient Egyptian seven principles of Ma'at, which are truth, balance, order, harmony, righteousness, morality, and justice. Okay, so all of these were expected that the priests had followed, the pharaohs followed this, all the way down to the noblemen's and the common people. Every member of the community followed these laws of Ma'at in Africa, and we lived amongst each other peacefully. You know what I'm saying? Now, Ma'at has more than seven principles. There's more than 42 principles of Ma'at, but there are laws and principles that you can use on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? To keep yourself balanced, to keep a balance about you. You know what I'm saying? So you can keep yourself in check pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Like Ice Cube said, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have something that's going to maintain your character, your morality, and your humanity. Okay, that's going to keep everything in balance. So you can't, control your mind, and you won't go out and do some crazy things, because we all had the capacity, of lower brain thinking. Okay, so you have to rise above your animalistic nature. That's what Haru and Maquette, the Sphinx, is all about. You know what I'm saying? So when you see that image of the Sphinx is rising above your animalistic nature, we all have the capacity and the capability to do something evil and wicked, but you can come up out of your root chakra and live in your higher consciousness of being your Christ-like being, which is in enlightenment. Okay, so your spiritualness has to be high, and your level of consciousness has to be high, and your principles have to be high, your moral principles. So you can maintain yourself, your moral principles, by sticking with the principles of Ma'at, living by these principles. This is your lifestyle, your morality. You know what I'm saying? So the Bible tried to take some of these concepts with the Ten Commandments and say, thou shalt not. You know what I'm saying? That means you will not do these things. It's a commandment. All right. So that was their way of taking these African principles and remixing them and then using them against Africans, you know what I'm saying, in order to keep them under control and people. But we lived in peace. As you see here, the goddess Ma'at is giving the blessings over to the goddess of Set, you know what I'm saying? And then you have Haru, her son, and then Nephbet, you know what I'm saying, behind her. You know what I'm saying? So you had the pharaoh goddesses and gods were also respecting and venerating the principles of Ma'at. You know what I'm saying? So everybody respected Ma'at. So it wasn't like, we did disrespected each other. So you can live peacefully like this. You see what I'm saying? Look at these Africans. living together, playing games, board, what I'm saying? They're just living naturally, helping one another. Look at these Africans. You know what I'm saying? Working together, sharing things. You know what I'm saying? Giving food, drink, and water. You know what I'm saying? Communing one with another peacefully, respectfully as human beings. No war, no savages. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, we protected our borders and everything like that against enemies and foreign enemies. But when we treated each other the way that we treated each other humanely. Okay? Look, sharing food and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? All type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we had these principles as Africans, that came out of Kemet and the Nile Valley culture, civilization. Our civilizations were a beautiful civilization. We were peaceful people, spiritual people. You know what I'm saying? We forgot who we are as a people because of all the traumatic episodes that we had to go through and endure from this white European. From the moment Alexander the Greek stepped on the scene and conquered in 325 BCE, conquered North Africa and took over, nothing has been the same. The world has not been the same. The white European albino has something wrong with them mentally. Something is wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? Mentally, they're lacking spirituality. They're lacking something within them. You know what I'm saying? When you have a birth defect, you're missing something. As an albino, you're missing something. They have a birth defect. Okay, so they're lacking melanin, and that melanin, it keeps you connected one spiritually with the creator, the supreme being. And the melanin that Africans have, we have a oneness with the creator. We understand, like I was speaking in the last video, African spirituality. You know what I'm saying? So that oneness with the supreme being allows us to have a respect and a reverence for all living beings and all living creatures. We want to help. We want to live peacefully. We want to support. We want to forgive. We want to empathize. We want to love. That's inherently within African people. You know what I'm saying? We have lost our identity and we have adopted the culture of the white European, which causes us to do things outside of ourselves. Okay? It causes our people to behave in certain ways outside of our principles that our ancient ancestors originally had. Okay? So once you go through so many traumatic episodes, you know what I'm saying, of conquest, slavery, Jim Crow laws, segregation, police brutality, mass incarceration, imprisonments, unfair equal justice, unfair, housing, authorities, unfair jobs, and you know what I'm saying? It's just so much oppression that is just upon our people that we have to endure and overcome mentally. Programming from the church. You know what I'm saying? When you're God, you look at a God and God is white and you're an African, psychologically that messes with your mind. And you don't even think that it does, but it does. Okay? But these are the things that we lost. But we as a people, you know, we can come back. We're resilient as Africans. You know what I'm saying? We're resilient. We can come back and restore our, rightful principles of Maat. You know what I'm saying? We just have to practice it and we have to study it and we have to know who we are and embrace our African principles. Look how we got along with animals and nature, you know what I'm saying? With each other, all type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we depicted all of these things on wall. We were artists, you know what I'm saying? So we had all of these talents. You know what I'm saying? We had all of these talents and it all came from the golden rule, the foundation of how do you treat other people? Okay? How do you look and see yourself? How do you treat other people? And Ma'at, the goddess Ma'at, was that aspect of the supreme being that was encompassing all of that. Truth, righteousness, justice, you know what I'm saying? Order, balance. And, that aspect of God. the creator, came, through the goddess Maat. And this is who we venerated as African people. And we understood that principle and that aspect of God permeated through, this goddess. And this was her, the representation of the supreme being to the people. Okay. So that's how we live. And, as a people, we understood that's who we were. But we went through so many traumatic episodes, like I said, that we lost ourselves. We lost our identity. We lost our God. We lost our principles. We lost our morals. We lost our culture. We lost our language, our speech. We don't know who we are. You know what I'm saying? We've adopted something that we are not, something that they've told us that we are. But inherently, we are truly African. If we're honest with ourselves and we look in the mirror, we're African, melanated beings. Our descendants came from the land of Africa. That's how you identify a people, the land in which they come from. That's why I call them white Europeans, because their people came from Europe. It's that simple. It's not to be derogatory. It's not to be demeaning. It's not to be, harsh. It's not to be, racist or anything like that. It's just stating a fact. You know what I'm saying? You identify Asians from Asia. You identify Latinos and things of that nature from the Caribbeans, and you know what I'm saying, from all over, wherever land they come from. That's you identify them. That's how you identify them. That's the group, the haplo group in which they come from. And if we're true and honest with ourselves, yes, we had indigenous Africans here in America. You know what I'm saying? But their mother and father came from somewhere in Africa. You know what I'm saying? And they settled, they traveled and migrated to America, settled in that land, and they had babies and this, that, and the third. And those babies then became indigenous to America. Those African babies. Yeah, we were all over the place. But their mothers and fathers came from Africa. So we're descendants of Africans. So you got to embrace the African culture. You got to embrace who you are, your identity. You got to be proud to be African and accept that. You know what I'm saying? And follow the African ways, because everyone stole from African people. The white European system that they have in place now, the concepts and ideas came from Africans. So why are you trying to be something that they're trying to teach you? Why don't you just go back to your original self, your original ancestors, and understand where they got it from? Go to the original source. Why are you trying to be a copy of something? Anyway, that's just where we are. You know what I'm saying? But look, a great book that I recommend that you go in and take out and take a look at some of these principles and philosophies of Ma'at is, the Ma'at philosophy by Dr. Muwata Ashby. Muwata Ashby is an excellent author. You know what I'm saying? This elder brother, you know what I'm saying, this African is amazing. He'll teach and break down every principles of ancient African Kemet. And then also, this Ma'at philosophy book is a very great book. It teaches about, all of the principles that we had as an African people in our society and the culture in the Nile Valley. And Muwata Ashby did an excellent job, writing this book. I recommend it, highly recommend it, and strongly go out and take a read, purchase that book and read it. You know what I'm saying? All right, man. Hope you enjoyed that lesson. You know what I'm saying? It was a great lesson for today. It had to be discussed. You know what I'm saying? So we had to talk about the principles of Ma'at and how we lost ourselves as a people. You know what I'm saying? It's very important that we come back and get to know, our African cultures and know that we had a morality system, way before any other, group or race of people that came in and conquered us. We have to understand and get back to that psychologically so we can overcome mentally. You know what I'm saying? So before we leave, before we go, quick reminder, you know what I'm saying? Head over to maarifa make you a purchase today. Look at all these fly melanated beings who rocking the gear, man. They went out and made purchases and supporting the knowledge movement. And you should too. You know what I'm saying? Go and rock the gear. We also need you to like, subscribe, follow, and share all of our social media platforms at Maarifa LLC. Leave us a thumbs up if you like what you heard in this video. And also, don't forget to drop a comment. You know what I'm saying? Comment, you know what I'm saying? And let us know. Share the video as well and let the people know, about Maarifa moments. You know what I'm saying? So dig, this has been another Maarifa moment where knowledge has been reborn. So remember, the more you know, the more you'll grow and the better off we all shall be. So until next time, I'll say love and light. Peace. Let's go. We made it. We made it. Live at Seneferu's Pyramid. Okay. Seneferu built this